Oh dear, 2025 isn't getting off to a great start, is it? Especially if you happen to work in Tinseltown. I mean, the first quarter of the year generally isn't filled with too many box office juggernauts. January and to some extent February are well known as dump months, where studios shart out the malformed runts of the litter that they don't expect to have a chance against the big hitters in summer movie season. The reasons for this are pretty obvious. Everyone's broke after the festive season and more concerned with losing those beer guts than shoveling overpriced popcorn down their gullets. The weather's still dark and cold most of the time, unless you're one of those weirdos who lives in Australia, but I don't trust a single one of them. And nobody's feeling particularly enthusiastic about dragging themselves to the movie theatre to shell out $100 to do something they could just as easily do at home for free. Now that's fine and all, but generally by March things have started to noticeably pick up. As the weather improves, people have more money again, and bigger and more interesting movies start to come out.
Really?
But here's the thing, it's not happening this year, like at all. And the problem has been neatly summed up by this article from The Hollywood Reporter that describes the movie Novocaine as leading the worst weekend of the year so far at the box office.
No shit.
I mean, I can't say I'm too surprised, to be honest. We're not exactly swimming in unmissable content right now. Take Novocaine, for example. Tell me, do you want to see Jack Quaid playing a weak man who gets his arse kicked over and over again? You know, like every other role he's played for the past 5 years? Jesus, I don't know what that dude must have done to anger the powers that be in Hollywood, but it must have been something pretty bad because his entire career seems to have been one long humiliation ritual. Here's a little tip for you, Hollywood. We've had our fill of weak male characters being humiliated and beat down, thank you. Maybe you could try switching things up and writing male leads that don't make us want to throw up in our mouths. Then there's Mickey 17, a misfiring sci-fi comedy with one of the worst cases of TDS outside of Mark Hamill's living room that feels like it was written 10 years ago, cost $120 million to make, and has raked in a grand total of $90 million worldwide. Or how about Captain America: Brave New World, which is somehow still hanging on in cinemas more than a month after release, probably because there's fuck all left to compete with it. A movie that cost anywhere up to $300 million after all the reshoots, failed to even reach $400 million worldwide, and seems to have disappeared without a trace after its opening weekend, becoming Marvel's first flop of the year. Don't worry though, I suspect it won't be the last. The only decent movie out right now is Steven Soderbergh's spy thriller Black Bag, with an all-star cast and a pretty slick screenplay, which for some reason has been lumbered with a non-existent marketing campaign to the point where I didn't even know the movie fucking existed until I saw it on my local cinema listings. Seriously, go watch it if you can and support movies that actually deserve it. Either way though, none of this is going to change the fact that the first quarter of 2025 is shaping up to be pretty dismal for Hollywood, with a series of flops and underperformers failing to liven up what's already a pretty slow period. What really made me laugh though was the idea that distributors are holding out hope for Snow White to turn their fortunes around. Hate to break it to you chaps, but with a projected 50 million opening weekend and some of the worst PR in Hollywood history, something tells me this isn't going to be the box office saviour you're hoping for. So if not Snow White, then can anything jolt cinemas into life over the next few months? Well, the Minecraft movie's coming out in April, which actually seems to have recovered from that disastrous first trailer to build up some decent momentum. Generally these days I see Jack Black movies as the place where comedy and entertainment go to die, but the Minecraft brand is so strong that it's probably going to do well with kids at least. Thunderbolts seems neatly positioned to be another Marvel dud. Tonally it looks broadly in line with Brave New World, lots of clandestine missions and government conspiracies, only without the big name stars and recognisable characters, so I've got no idea what Marvel thinks the actual draw is supposed to be. Hey, wanna watch a film about a bunch of second-rate rejects from movies and TV shows you can barely remember, who aren't big enough to support their own solo flicks? Didn't think so. Mission Impossible's probably going to do well in May, even though it's coming off the back of Dead Reckoning, if for no other reason than it's likely Tom Cruise's final outing in the franchise. Although fuck me, that guy's probably still going to be doing action flicks when he's like 80 years old. For some reason, all the big hitters seem to be sandwiched into July, with Superman, Fantastic Four and Jurassic World Rebirth duking it out for box office supremacy. And honestly, I wouldn't want to take bets on who's going to win this one. The Jurassic World movies have all with strong performers. Damn man, even a retarded bag of shit like Dominion somehow topped $1 billion. So there's a pretty strong chance that Rebirth might end up sweeping the superhero movies aside altogether. And let's not kid ourselves, if they both flop, that might just spell the end for cape shit movies in general, which have been declining for years by this point. 3 box office bombs in a row would be definitive proof that the MCU is finally burned through all the fan goodwill that it spent a decade building up. On the other hand, Superman failing to launch would be a huge blow to James Gunn's attempt to relaunch DC, which already seems to be on shaky ground the more I learn about it. One way or another, July is going to be a make or break month for a lot of different franchises, and while there's always a chance that 2 big superhero movies released around the same time might end up creating a Barbenheimer effect where they build each other up instead of cannibalizing each other's audience, I don't get the impression that we're heading in that direction. The fact is, there's just not that much to get excited about at the cinema this year. 2025 is mostly another year dominated by sequels and franchises that feel increasingly tired and played out. Speaking of which, there's another Avatar movie coming out in December to round out the year. Another 3-hour James Cameron tech demo that's probably gonna rake in a shit zillion dollars, make absolutely zero cultural impact, and be forgotten about within a matter of weeks. The movie equivalent of a fast food meal. Seriously, how can a guy who gave us Terminator, Aliens, and Titanic devote so much of his life and career to something so fucking shallow? Anyway, whatever. If he wants to spend the back half of his career churning out movies that nobody's ever gonna remember, I'm not gonna defend him for it. The point I'm making here is that the sluggish start to the year, coupled with the complete lack of interest in awards season, feels like a symptom of a larger problem in the movie industry right now. There's just no anticipation, no real excitement for anything new, no sense of a shared cultural experience that we can't wait to talk about. There's a kind of weariness that's settled over the film industry these past few years, an apathy, an inertia, like everyone's basically out of ideas, the occasional attempts at something new are all failing, and so they're all just waiting around for the next big trend to jump on. The problem is that nobody's quite sure what it's going to be, when it's coming, or has the balls to actually take a risk and make it happen. So instead, we're stuck in this awkward holding pattern, churning out sequels to aging franchises just to keep kicking the can down the road a little while longer, waiting for something or someone to shake things up. I don't know when or if that's ever going to happen, but what I do know is that if the Hollywood system even hopes to survive the next few years, they need to find a solution pretty fucking fast.
It's Hollywood, baby.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.